Halo SPV3 is a large-scale mod that was released way back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago. Jesus. Now for those of you wondering what in the world is SPV3, let me break it down for you. It is like the ultimate fan-made love letter to Halo that is a full-on conversion mod for the Combat Evolved. The mod overhauls the entire CE sandbox from adding in weapons from other Halo games, such as the battle rifle and SMG, but also adding in its own weapons, further adding to the variety. And with the added bonus, you can change what underpants the Chief is wearing, from the mod's redesigned Mark V armor to an ODST, as well as being able to change the appearance of Cortana to a Windows 10 variant. You just know I had to pick this for Cortana and the ODST for Chief, right? Not only that, there are a bunch of new vehicles, locations, missions, enemies, and difficulties added. But there was one difficulty that caught my eye: the Noble difficulty. According to the website, named after Noble team from Reach, Noble difficulty claims to be harder than Legendary, with the enemy's durability and damage having been ramped up to 11. And I thought, what better way to trigger my latest Halo aneurysm than to play through this mod on the Noble difficulty. Now, I've not played this mod in several years. However, with my sanity being put on the line once again, I wasn't going to back down from this challenge. The SPV Fever Dream starts off with our ODST Jimbo, who we saw back in our Halo Reach infantry video, because I can't help myself but bring back used throwaway characters. Waking up to find ourselves in this nightmare, we begin to make our way down some corridors before we instantly get our cheeks slapped by this elite blocking the door. Having our first experience of the game being almost instant death had the potential to age like milk. But this Marine came to save the day and we could make our way safely to the bridge, where we had a firm handshake with the good captain. With the captain's reassuring words that we were the right man for the job to protect his Windows 10 operating system, we had our doubts, as he didn't even give us a weapon.
I'll see you on the surface.
Excuse me, what the fuck?
As we prepare to make our way off the ship, we steal this sleeping guy's airsoft gun, and we go to town on these grunts. The cafeteria was an absolute slaughterhouse. The Marines got instantly folded in half not even a minute into the fight, and we got our first taste of what combat in this mod will be like. Yeah, this is going to be painful. One really nice feature I like about this opening level are the defense turrets scattered around the ship, and that can be activated by nearby terminals. Now, I was under the impression that I could activate this turret before the Covenant pour out from the escape pod, and that they would get mowed down. How wrong I was to think that it was me who would get mowed down instead. As the military strategy I planned on how to tackle this mod became more improvisation, we come across the bane of my existence in this run: the Ultra Elites. Now, these guys in this mod are like Jesus Christ on crack. I already despised the Ultra Elites after playing Halo Reach as a Marine, and these guys were like them, except much worse.
Fuck!
After struggling for near enough 6 minutes dying in the same spot, I found the most effective way to deal with the Ultras was to just throw a plasma grenade at them. Who knew? As we come up to the stairs, taking out the brutes above was no real trouble once we got our hands on the battle rifle. Once we dealt with those Neanderthals, we come across the new encounters that the mod has to offer, and that was a group of stealth elites waiting for us next to the escape pods. I will say this took me by surprise, as I was 100% not expecting elites to be there. Emerging from the vents, we are instantly dished out some karma by this brute that punched my skeleton from my body for being a sus little boy. Once my daily serving of brute fisting was finished, we managed to clear out these trogs and come across a Marine who was just T-posing, and I wasn't going to argue with this man's dominance. As we make our way through more vents, it was here that we get to experience the mod's added environments, as we are thrown into a completely new section of the ship. These new sections turn the game from a lemon and herb level of spice to flaming hot diarrhea-inducing hot sauce, and I liked it, even though I got lost within the first 2 minutes of being in this area. Moving on towards one of the ship's cargo bays, we take advantage of the battle rifle's single shot to deal out these cretins below some UNSC justice, with the help of a black hole grenade thrown into the mix. Once the cargo bay and its occupants were unalived, we press forward where I am outsmarted by a grunt. Filing this moment in my life as a low point, one respawn later we're able to dish out our revenge on these wet wipes, and then I got to play in zero gravity. Through this part of the ship there are terminals dotted around that control the ship's gravity in the area ahead. But I didn't get to enjoy it for long as I got my ass kicked by a bunch of stealth elites and an ultra, forcing me to trade out my health regen for the visor mode just so I can see where these fart sniffers were hiding. With these stealth elites adding to my already growing Halo aneurysm, I managed to find myself a DMR and showcase just how trash my aim actually is. I was actually considering doing combat training just to assist with my aim. But instead, I go back to the battle rifle and have better results. And just as my confidence in being able to hit my shots started to skyrocket, the game throws a pair of hunters my way. This is still mission 1 by the way, and we have to deal with hunters already. Even though in the mod we can't one-shot the hunters like in classic CE, I did notice when killed, the hunters will now drop their weapon. And let me just say, this thing fucks. As a kid, I wanted to use the hunter cannon, and being able to do so in this mod was everything that I was hoping it would be. Moving slightly along, we blast past these toilet bowl sniffers in the motor pool and ride the elevator up to the final stretch of the mission. As we fight our way down a long hallway aside a bunch of marines, we end up coming face to face with another pair of hunters. Fantastic. Once the wormy boys were put down with the help of a black hole grenade, we moved through the vents and come out where the original CE would have had us. As we fought our way towards the escape pods, we run into a lot of ultra elites, and a zealot, who charged me with this pointy thing. Now, living in the UK, being charged at with sharp pointy things is just my everyday walk to the shop, so this was nothing new to me. But after the local population of ultra elites was dealt with, we made our way towards the escape pods, and we were finally off the ship. Despite all that effort, we're only on mission 2. We crash land on the giant hula hoop, and our boy Jimbo is eager to go on a treasure hunt to round up scattered marine squads. To my surprise, I wasn't alone for this opening part, as a group of marines and the alpha male sex machine were here with me. I guess even this mod doesn't want me and Johnson to be apart. As we take a short hike up the hill, the dropship that would normally drop off the Covenant at the crash site ended up dropping them off right in front of me on the hills, instantly bringing my blood pressure up to a lethal level. After hiding behind some rocks, these dipsticks were quickly dealt with, and we push up the hills, where our boy Johnson is instantly slapped by a golden boy, and I end up fearing for my life as he chases after me. But we managed to put him down, but also not long after, it seems that Cyclops from the X-Men had other ideas, as we are lasered back to the start of the mission. Passing away violently another 3 times, me and Johnson were able to push through the enemy lines and down towards the first lot of marines. With the initial wave dealt with, we hang out with Johnson and the boys for a bit before we get interrupted by some nosy neighbours. One thing that separates this holdout from the standard CE was the fact we get our hands on a sniper. Now you would think that having a sniper would make this section much easier. Well, it would if I didn't have the aim of a potato, and only hit 10% of my shots. And to make things worse, when the third dropship arrives, a pair of flying wildlife also show up to ruin my day even further, forcing me to shift my attention from the Covenant towards them. Let's just say trying to deal with these bellends and having a bunch of Covenant push you is not my idea of a good time if you ask me, making this one of the most uncomfortable experiences playing this mod so far, and this was only mission 2. In the end, I ended up hiding up in the trees trying to take out these banshees with an assault rifle, while Johnson mainly sat on his ass as I left him to deal with the Covenant forces. Once the airborne garbage was dealt with, it was just what seemed like the never-ending ultra elites, and my hatred for these white armoured dingleberries had never been so high. Long story short, it took a further 20 minutes before Echo 419's sweet voice graced my ears. 40 minutes into this mission. Now, I was debating about taking the gun goose that was also dropped off, but I couldn't say no to our boy Dave the Marine and the Hog. Is this the first time Dave and Jimbo meet in this story? I think it might be. One thing I failed to notice was that the vehicles in this mod have a health bar.
What the hell is even that?
I only took notice of this as when we entered the cave, our Warthog's health was already in the danger zone. Clearly the Warthogs have the same durability as a little Tykes car, and can only take a small amount of damage before getting completely totaled. My fear that the Warthog would explode at the first sign of trouble was correct, as just as I jumped out to take out a shade turret, the Warthog and Dave exploded. It seems even in this timeline, Dave the Marine is destined to die. With Dave's death once again fueling my rage, we took care of the Covenant in this area before we activate the bridge and continued our adventure on a nearby ghost that was just sat there waiting for us. As we exit the tunnel into a new area, our desire to save Marines was even stronger here. There were 3 groups of Marines that needed to be saved before we could move on. It was here that I realised that the Ghost may be the best vehicle to use in this mod, as no matter how much damage I seemed to take, the Ghost health never seemed to drop. With the Marine squad saved and the area cleansed of all Covenant, we receive a shiny new Warthog from a Pelican, and we are then tasked with clearing out the AA Wraiths in the next valley to secure Alpha Base. Now I thought this part was going to be easy. Oh boy would I be wrong. I guess my bad luck started while I was driving around and I accidentally ran over this Marine.
Betrayal.
And to be honest, it was all downhill from there, as I ended up flipping my Warthog off the bridge only to get shot by 3 Wraith blasts within seconds of each other.
I'm dying.
Help me.
The next few attempts was me trying to get this rocket hog and the marine inside, as my monkey brain thought rockets were better than bullets, when in reality they are, but when I'm in control, I might as well just try and run up and tickle the wraiths to death. I was one more death away from bursting a major blood vessel, but Operation Get Good Scrub was now in effect. Returning after a pee break with my confidence high did not yield better results, as I was still trash at the game, but 15 minutes of watching my corpse fly through the air, we managed to clear out the wraiths around the base and are now tasked with moving inside and taking out the last wraith on the hill. We quickly take out these nerds camping inside before making our way up the lift, but it didn't take me long to get gunned down by my sworn nemesis, the rapid-firing pistol goblins. Once we deal out some swift justice in the form of a brute shot to the face, we board the AA Wraith and use it to take out the approaching phantoms and any stragglers. With the base now secured, we hop into a shiny new Gauss Hog and accelerate out of this trash receptacle of a section. The rest of this mission was business as usual, gathering up the 3 squads of Marines. And once the last Marine squad was secured, Windows 10 informs us that they had found the good captain, and once we get picked up by Echo 419, it was time to launch a rescue mission to save the man himself. With the plan to rescue the good captain now in play, Mission 3 kickstarts off with us being able to choose our loadout, and despite having the aim of a drunk stormtrooper, we choose the sniper rifle. And to my surprise, we were able to rapidly clear out the opening section, making a way for a band of merry men to move up with the mission. Now, I was debating about taking a health regen that was placed in the next area, but without visor mode, it was clear to Bravo 6 that it was pretty fucking dark out here. Even with the flashlight, I still couldn't see anything, so I opted for being able to see instead of having health, a mistake I would regret as the mission carries on, as even the gift of sight I wasn't able to see this elite sneaking up behind me and needle me to death. As we come up to the next area, I had a feeling this wasn't going to be easy to deal with, so I instantly took out the first shape of the plasma and then proceeded to jump on this rock and snipe the Covenant like some aggressive jack-in-the-box. However, while moving to the left side, I am sent into low health. Now, low health is nothing new to me. In fact, I think I thrive off of it. What I don't thrive off is being lasered in the face by 3 sniper jackals. It seems no matter what, I cannot escape these flightless cretins. Once the scum of the galaxy had been cleansed from my local postcode, we continued to mop up the rest of these pillars, with a lot of deaths happening in between. But we were able to eventually push up to the grav lift. Now, I would like to say this grav lift section was easy, but that would be a lie. It took me over half an hour to clear this grav lift. I died so much in this area that I had to walk away from the game just to take a break for a moment, as I felt if I carried on I would commit GBH on my computer. This difficulty is no joke. The amount of damage you receive is borderline illegal, as you can go from full health to faceplant in the ground in seconds. However, we were able to eventually clear out the lift of all douchebags, and then I ended up being greeted by 4 hunters. You can only imagine the shock to my system that the number of these toilet bowl drinkers had doubled. And to make matters worse, there were 2 types of hunters to deal with. The normal cannon hunters, and the orange piss-firing hunters. With my deaths somewhere in the quadruple digits by now, I found the best way to deal with these 4 trogs was to run away with my tail between my legs and snipe them. Once these 4 big boys were put down, we rejoined more ODSTs as we prepared to enter the ship, but little did I know at the time, the pegging was only about to begin. The fight within the ship begins pretty much immediately as we go 1v1 with this brute, which was totally a fair fight, but once upon my victory I am almost sent into cardiac arrest as I got my ODST's cheek slapped by this leapfrogging sword elite. With some well-placed grenades just as the doors opened, we were able to prevent the Covenant from flooding into this room. This strat was key in order to keep my fellow ODSTs alive, but all that changed when the large doors opened. Now, I was expecting a pair of hunters to be there like a normal CE, but instead we find a pack of brutes with a chieftain dingleberry. Now, I thought I was going to be in for the fight of my life here, but to be honest, this guy was a pushover. With most of my ODSTs taking a permanent nap, Windows 10 Cortana tells us to find another way around using the side passages, which we did. This next room wasn't too bad to deal with. I was able to take advantage of hiding down the corridor and using precision weapons whenever the door opened. But that's not to say clearing out this part didn't come with its fair share of close calls.
Oh God.
Entering the hangar bay for the first time, there was a 67.9% chance that I was not going to enjoy this. This section was filled with mass troglodytes, and to make matters worse, I had brutes on the upper floors trying to unalive me at their earliest convenience. armed with plasma pistol and hardly any ammo. Things were not looking good. However, I found out if I just full send it to the other side of the room and grab the overshield, and then camp in the door that we entered this room from, it wasn't much of a problem to deal with. And with the doors now open, we were able to make our way up all 3 levels of this nightmare before coming up to the bridge. Making use of the sniper, the bridge was cleared within a matter of minutes. And when I say minutes, I mean I died a lot here. While blundering down the halls making our way to the holding cells, I come across a bunch of jackals eating some dead ODSTs. I guess that crazy marine in Reach was right. The Covenant do in fact eat humans. Anyway, with the captain now rescued, I thought that the way back was going to rupture that ever-growing aneurysm, but honestly it wasn't that bad, as we were able to make it back to the hangar in just under 5 minutes. And just as I blast these brutes with the hunter cannon, Windows 10 informs the captain that he apparently hasn't flown a ship since his time in the academy. I guess that explains why he keeps crashing them into walls. Before Mission 4 starts, I am greeted with a choice of what version of the mission I would like to play. It turns out that the developers have created their own version of this mission, but I chose to stick with the normal version for now. But don't worry my sweet viewers, we will get to see the other version later on. With our loadout selected, me and a squad of ODSTs begin our assault on the island. Now I would like to say that we cleared out this section with no real issues, but I'd be lying. I'm not sure if it was my aim letting me down here, my weapon selection, or the Covenant just being on crack, but I just kept dying. Repeatedly. I have never struggled so much to take this beach before, in all of my years playing Halo. The urge to put my fist through one of my monitors was too strong, and after giving myself a headache from bashing my head off my desk for over half an hour, I decided to restart the mission and select the rocket launcher loadout. As you can imagine, using the rockets was much easier to deal with these elite trogs who kept putting me down, and soon after, the beach was secured. Once our Amazon Prime order was delivered, I decided to take the Gun Goose to spare the 2 remaining ODSTs. That was until later. Now it may not seem it, but this Gun Goose was actually very effective at blasting past all these Covenant numpties. Taking advantage of the grenade launchers and pulling off the loop-de-loop technique, we were able to make it inside the structure and take out these pillocks with a few gravity grenades. But I did notice something while here. The Gold Elite who normally guards the entrance to this BDSM dungeon was now an honor guard. It was at this moment that I realised that maybe more would be waiting for my fragile body below, but that was a future me problem. For now, we make our way towards the interior of the island to disable the ring's firewalls. Using the nearby rocket hog, we managed to clear out the gathering of flightless goblins and push up towards the hunters. This part wasn't too bad to deal with, as I already had the rocket launcher, even if I did get unalived by a grunt a few times. Once the wormy boys were removed from my existence, we head inside the structure to deal with 2 more wormy boys. I'll be honest, I was shocked at how quickly I took down these 2. Maybe I'm finally getting good, as they say. Anyway, with the island's firewalls disabled, we managed to deal with the stealth elites waiting for us, and once outside, we see the aftermath of a Captain Key's landing attempt. Now, not only do I have to deal with the large number of Covenant around the crash site, but I also have to deal with the flying wildlife, and with my ammo not looking good at all, I knew I wasn't in for a good time here. Many deaths later, we managed to return to the dungeons with a new Gauss hog, but it wasn't long before these hunters denied us our entrance. Attempt number 2 went a lot better, and we were able to park up the hog just inside the door ready for our return later. As we entered the Pagan chambers, my theory about more honor guards was correct, so I wasn't taking any chances with these guys.
Overkill.
Now it seems either my aim or this DMR are complete turbo garbage, as I couldn't hit the grunt who was no less than 5 feet from my face. Now, I could have cut this clip, but why not embarrass myself even further? As we make our way deeper into the facility, it wasn't long before I felt these 2 honor guards pointy thing enter my body without my consent, many times over.
This is bullshit!
Getting double teamed by 2 elites was not on my list of things that I enjoyed, but after dishing out some well-deserved karma by a rocket to the face, making it past this masochist wet dream, we eventually made it to the bottom of the level, and used Google Maps to find us a path directly towards the control center. With the perfect route now mapped out, we begin to make our way out this 50 Shades of Grey basement. I will say the toughest part about getting out of here was dealing with these rapid-firing tree goblins, as I forgot to take into account my ammo situation. This unfortunate mistake led to many rage-fueled deaths. Anyway, after struggling for over half an hour, we managed to make it back to the exit, even if it wasn't the exit we were hoping for, as what would go down in history as a very close call. We hop back in the hog, deal with the sneaky boys waiting for us, and get in our Uber, and with that, we were able to put this mission behind us. I have a hate, loathe, despise relationship with this mission, so when it came time for the daddy level, I knew this was going to make me check myself into a white padded room, and oh boy, this mission did not disappoint. If I had to mark down how much abuse I received in this mission, I'd probably put it as an 11 out of 10 on the colonoscopy scale. I swear the AI in this mission were something else. It was almost as if they were programmed to dish out aneurysms as much as possible, and this bridge was no exception. After we'd deal with these numpties on the bridge and stick the golden boy in the face, we were free to progress to the next area where I spent a fair amount of time trying to get past this elite major guarding the doorway. As we came up against the hunters in this cramped room, we managed to take one down and then use the cannon to take down his mate, before we head down the elevator where we ended up giving these grunts a permanent nap time. Now, as much as I would love to say that things got much easier as soon as we made it outside, that would be a lie, as this area was crawling with mass troglodytes who were looking to make me smash my keyboard in a blind rage. After being sent to the afterlife 6 more times, I was eventually able to push up and make some progress to the tank, and oh my, was she beautiful. Not only had my one true love had a new look, but she was a grizzly. 66 tons of double-barreled goodness. With this amazing piece of machinery, we easily blast past the coveys and made our way into the tunnels. Now this tunnels and the next few areas were fairly easy to deal with, and before I knew it, I was at the point where I had to leave the tank behind. But I got a message saying that the grizzly will be waiting for me when we return into Betrayals. With this glimmer of hope filling my heart, we take down these 2 hunters and move into the next canyon. That was slightly less rage-causing than I expected. Okay, that was a lie. The overall challenge and mission enjoyment was in the negative numbers, and it was giving me testicular pain. The deaths continued to pile up here. I was, after struggling for 40 minutes, able to make it out this hellhole, even if it did cost me all of my marines and a few rockets. Returning to the game a full 24 hours later, I was filled with optimism that this new day would bring better results. This new day did not bring better results. However, on the second attempt I was able to make it to the lift without being turbo-fisted instantly, and as we made our way up, I was wondering what this mod was going to throw at me next. As we cleared out the next room with some danger close rocket launching, we come up to the first of the 2 bridges. Now these bridges have been an absolute hell to get past on many of my Halo CE runs, and this time was no different. Bridge number 1, although filled with chronic masturbators, didn't cause me that much trouble, but it was bridge number 2, and for the lack of a better term, was fucking awful. I was riding a high after clearing out the last few rooms with little deaths, but it was this bridge that would drive me to abuse my keyboard so much that I had to buy a new keyboard. This second bridge was filled up with so many goblins that issued out turbo resets on demand. Not only do I have to worry about the apes pushing my position, but the hunters on the other bridge as well, but through sheer grit, we managed to make some progress and were able to make it past. If I could name this bridge, I'd call it Bonnie Blue, because I was constantly getting fucked. It seemed no matter what I tried, we were in our own personal hell here. After a call to my therapist, I had come up with the idea that not only was this mod designed by feral fart sniffers, but I was in fact part of the problem. With unnecessary deaths, questionable life choices, and a heavy drinking problem. Was I going to change that? No. We continued this reckless playstyle, but it wasn't getting us anywhere. We were still stuck at this bridge. I decided to take the rest of the night off, and to try again the next day. It seems taking the night off had done me some good, as just 20 minutes later we managed to pass this hellish purgatory that I had created. The feeling of progress engulfed my frontal lobe. After massacring the Kigyal population in this room, we pushed forward throughout the level dealing with the 2 hunters standing over some dead marines, and come across a lift that went down. Entering this new area, I wasn't sure what to expect going forward, but a thought did cross my mind. When the fuck will this mission end? As we stare at this shrine of dead marines, I couldn't help but feel the game was mocking me, as this is exactly how I felt playing this dumpster fire of a level. Stepping outside, we find ourselves in some kind of underground cavern filled with, wow what a surprise, more Neanderthals. Despite this area being the equivalent of a 1-star food safety rating, we make a beeline for a nearby ghost that for some unknown reason to man, are near indestructible. With the power of the gods now at my disposal, we take care of these nerds and come across another grizzly. I'll tell you now, the serotonin being deployed to my brain in this moment was like no other. And with our true love we blast the wraiths camping on the bridge and proceed into the tunnels on the far side. This tunnel smelt like residual bin juice and had the potential for me to cry out for mummy. Not because of the Covenant in here, it was because of this Wraith tank camping in the tunnel like some CSGO nerd and stole my true love from me, but not before she made the ultimate sacrifice and saved our life moments before she was ripped away from me. From here on out, it was an uphill battle. No, really, as for the next 15 minutes I was fighting uphill just to get out this tunnel. But there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that was seeing a downed Pelican with a squad of Marines. Although it wasn't long I came to the conclusion that this was not going to be easy, as this section had swarms of Covenant, Spectres, Hunters, and tons of shade turrets scattered around. And once again, it was yet another uphill battle, as the Covenant used the Obi-Wan tactic against us, but the Covenant underestimate my power of pushing my sanity to its limits. As for the next hour and a half, we slowly pushed our way up the hill, driving back the Covenant as we went, until eventually, we made it to the control center. But the aneurysm didn't stop there. Just as I managed to clear out the surrounding area with the gun goose, this Wraith made me want to submit another police report for the cyberbullying, as he ripped all my progress away from me. It was at this moment I let out a loud war cry, and I think my neighbours think I'm mentally unwell now. They are correct, as for the next 40 minutes we tried over and over again to fight our way up to the top of this structure, until eventually we made it to the top. And we could finally open the doors and see what nightmare we had to deal with. But using this ramp we managed to clear out the trogs who were inside, even if I did blow myself up once or twice. Ignoring my ever-growing number of deaths caused by myself, we come across these honor guards whose shields deflect all incoming bullets. Not even the sniper was enough to bring these animals down. After wasting all my sniper ammo on them, as for some reason my monkey brain didn't realise that bullets didn't work, I eventually used the gun goose grenade launchers to take them down, and that seemed to work. And after 5 painful hours spread across 5 different recording sessions, we had done it. We finally beat this mission. I'd never been so happy to see our ODST Jimbo walk into this control center. Upon connecting Windows 10 Cortana to the mainframe, it turns out that our version of Windows 10 needed an update in order to be compatible with the Ring's mainframe. But to do that, we needed the Captain's Norton antivirus password to allow for the update to happen. Cortana then WhatsApps us the location of the Captain, and we hurry to find him. I honestly have no idea how this story has ended up here, but at least it's not another porn hard drive storyline. Up next, however, was a level of psychological distress that I never had expected a mod could cause. Arriving in this level, I didn't know what to expect when it came to the flood room, but first we must battle through the swamps of mass troglodytes to get there. With our first experience of this mission being almost instant death, I had a feeling that the rest of this mission wasn't going to be easy. But luckily I put my big boy pants on that day and were able to blast through the swamps with no real issues at all. Eventually we were able to make it inside, but being in here was no better than being outside, as I'm still met with the same fate by the hands of my swarm nemesis. As we deal with these nerds, we come up to the crazy Marine, and this time I decide to let him live, even though I still kinda hold a grudge against him after he unalived me in our Marine run.
I'll die first!
However, upon walking away, it seems that he felt guilty about that after seeing me again, and decided to game end himself right there and then. I kinda feel bad now. Moving slightly along, the serotonin being deployed to our brain in this moment had an expiry date of now, as we approach the flood room, and with how this mod has been so far, I was kind of on edge as I didn't know what to expect. Just as we enter the room, I noticed something different about it. There seemed to be mass blobs all over the room, but that didn't distract me from making a copy of Jenkins's internet history. After making an illegal download of Jenkins's internet history, we are assigned a 5-star wanted level, with the flood being deployed to violate our mental health. Now, I was expecting the flood to burst down the doors like a normal CE, but they seemed to burst from these scrotum sacs in this room. Not only did infection forms burst out, but it seems combat forms did as well. This change made this room that was normally easy peasy lemon squeezy to difficult lemon difficult. The combat forms being added to this room really ramped up the spice to this encounter, and made me fear for the rest of the game. As we escape the 9th layer of hell, we get to witness the sheer number of flood that have been added to this mod. Look at this is insane. It seems that my survival horror game started to kick in as I began avoiding fighting the flood at all costs just to save ammo, but I did end up blasting a bunch of grunts in the face. And sadly, the dead marines up ahead didn't have the god killing weapon, or any weapons might I add, apart from this turret, but we do get to watch as this grunt gets turned into a carrier form. I will say this was oddly satisfying to see. As we descend further into this nightmare, I was not prepared for the level of digital abuse I received before even setting foot off the lift.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
The Flood now have guns and plan to infect and upload more malware directly to our brains, by giving us a 2-for-1 cyberbullying special before I've even had a chance to consent. Coming to the conclusion that our survival rates for fighting the Flood was a staggering -1, in order to avoid further meltdowns on my keyboard, the best outcome was just to run away with our tail between our legs. The Flood in this mod were absolute demons and dished out more damage than my used nappy body could handle, but I eventually used the hide round corner with a shotgun tactic, and that seems to work for now. With the exit now in sight, I had a feeling that getting out of here was not going to be easy, and well, what a surprise, it wasn't. As it took me over 20 minutes to pass through this door, with my first few attempts reaching my daily doses of recommended fisting, but with perseverance and skill, only one of those I had by the way, we were able to leave this nightmare behind us, only to enter the next one. Now, I won't lie to you, it took me almost an hour to get past this swamp run. The number of Flood in this area is insane, and with the infection forms being able to infect our marines, their number only grew. I lost count how many times I died in the same spot. Just when I thought I might have a chance to make it through, I would be completely fisted by these walking hemorrhoids. But if you know me by now, I wasn't going to give up. If I could make it through this part as a marine, then I could do it here. And after putting my head through the drywall, we had done it, and ended up being kidnapped by Guilty Spark. This floating light bulb began to explain to us that the Flood infection was spreading, and if we went with him to retrieve the USB with the latest antivirus software on it, so we would be able to update the Ring's Windows Defender and purge this Trojan infection before it could spread even further. But he didn't even give us a chance to respond before we are instantly teleported to the library.
Oh, fuck. Oh my god.
As we enter the library, it seems even this mod is mocking me, as within these walls, we meet a new enemy. One so foul that I almost threw up at the sight of this thing. A Flood Jackal. The very sight of these things made my vein in my forehead bulge harder than David Bowie's pants. Fighting our way through this dumpster fire of a level, I found myself coming face to face with the Covenant. It turns out they are also after the USB so they can run their own software update. I wish my mic was recording at this point as I was so confused when they turned this corner. Like my mother says to me, it's a mistake we just have to live with. While writing this script, I noticed that I was swapping out weapons so much while I was playing this level. Never in all my years of playing Halo and the library have I ever done this, but ammo was just in such short supply, and yes, the Flood do carry a lot of weapons, but it was rare that I would encounter a Flood carrying the weapons I needed ammo for at the time. I guess I'm really lucky that this mission starts you off with a health regen, otherwise this mission would have taken a lot longer than it did. With both the Flood and the Covenant being in this level, the risk of bursting that Halo-shaped aneurysm was becoming more likely, but I was not prepared for what waited for me on the levels above. As we barely survived the door holdout section, I laid my eyes on a Sentinel Enforcer from Halo 2. I then suddenly realised that we have to fight them later as the game progressed. But that wasn't the worst part. Just as I turned the corner, we come across a destroyed Wraith. The very thought of having to fight a Wraith in the library was an unpleasant and disturbing one, and one that would raise my cortisol to a lethal level. It seemed up ahead that the Covenant was setting up shop with a bunch of honor guards. So I did the polite thing and introduced them to a gravity grenade, and with that I was able to clear a path towards the elevator that would take us up to the 3rd floor. As we blast past more Flood than my motion tracker would care to count, the mod decided to throw hunters into this crusty old sock of a level. You watch, they'll have me encounter a Wraith in here next, but I do manage to get my hands on this Sentinel weapon which is pretty damn powerful against both Flood and Covies. So remember literally 2 sentences ago I said about fighting a Wraith? Well, it turns out, you do have to fight a Wraith. But within these musty halls, a plan was presenting itself to me in real time. Despite asking the question on how the fuck did the Covenant get several Wraiths in here, if I could somehow steal the Wraith for myself, this would make the rest of the levels so much easier for me. But I wasn't sure if I could hijack in this mod, so with this idea thrusted into my forehead, we went for it. Having that prompt appear to me was like having that first pee in the mornings. I couldn't tell you how excited I was at the thought of having a wraith in this hellish place, and having this wraith made all the difference when it came to the holdout sections, as we use it just to mow down the flood that just poured at us. And when the wraith's health got low, I ended up wedging it in between the door and the wall, blocking the flood from getting to me easily. Before I even knew it, we were at the final elevator. And what a surprise, more Covenant were blocking the way. This time with a white honor guard. I'll tell you now, it's a good thing I was wearing my brown trousers at this point, as the fear of facing these guys knowing that bullets don't work on them was terrifying enough, but that didn't stop me trying with the shotgun. With this guy chasing me to the edge of the ring, I pulled off this pro gamer move by jumping past him and making a run towards the elevator, and we finally arrived at the 4th floor. I knew this floor was like the others, and by that I mean I'm instantly greeted by a bunch of plasma grenades. Despite fighting the urge to throw my slipper at my monitor, we were able to get past the Covenant dingleberries and make it to the final door. That was guarded by a pair of hunters. Even though I missed all 4 shots with the rocket launcher, look, I don't want to talk about it. We were able to steal their cannons just as the final door opened, and using the cannon to deal with the flood pouring out while making a tactical retreat, I discovered a wraith. And you're damn right that I was using that to blast our way towards the index. I'd be a fool not to, and with the assistance of the wraith, we managed to get to the USB that Jimbo fought so hard to get to, only for the floating light bulb to instantly steal it from us as soon as we took hold of it. He then explains that he must be the one that carries the USB as we are not worthy of its power, but he then instantly transported us back to the control room before I could even argue my point. Just as I'm about to verbally destroy this floating ballsack, Spark then hands us the USB stick ready to update the ring's software. However, just as we're about to insert our stick into the port, Windows 10 Cortana questions what we are doing, and begins to explain to us that yes, the USB would enable the antivirus scans, but it wouldn't just delete the flood infection, it would purge all operating systems in the galaxy. This information flooding our frontal lobe, Jimbo then turns on Spark, and the floating testicle orders the Sentinels to remove our head. To which they did. Many times over. But most of my deaths were mainly from these enforcers that show up once you remove the starting Sentinels. I had a feeling trying to fight one of those was not going to end well for me, just from seeing how they wiped the floor with the Covenant and the Flood in the last mission. Even though we were stuck in this room for over half an hour, and somehow through blind luck we were eventually able to clear out all these flying Terminators. But the nightmare of replaying this level but backwards had only just begun. To say that I wasn't going to enjoy this was a bit of an understatement, and that sentence had never been more apparent, as behind this door, there are 2 near unkillable white honor guards. Fantastic. You know what, I take back my earlier statement about the ultra elites in this game being the bane of my existence. These guys have claimed that title, but in time I came to learn how to beat these nerds by overcharging the brute plasma pistol and then headshot them as soon as possible, and that tactic seemed to work great against them. Making our way down was no real issue as we really just blast past a bunch of Neanderthals looking to ruin my day even more. With the rockets now in our hands, we attempt to take out the wraiths cock-blocking our way further. Now I don't know if it's the AI in this mod that's been updated or I'm just trash at the game, but almost every rocket I fired at these wraiths, they always seem to move out the way at the last second. But on top of the wraiths in this area, I also had these knuckleheads to deal with as well. And to make matters worse, Sentinel Enforcers decided to join the party. Let's just say leaving this starting area was a lot more difficult than I had planned. Anyway, making it past this area, we now have the mountainous task of making our way back down this mountain. Yeah, I'll see myself out. As we made our way down, we come across this wraith who was trying to remove me from this lifetime. But using the gravity grenade, we were able to steal the wraith, but my confidence in playing this game was instantly crushed, as the wraith further down the hill just one-shot my wraith like some CSGO nerd. So upon reincarnating, I made the executive decision to just go a different way. This path wasn't any better, mind you, but with a steady focus and nerves of steel, we fought our way past these troglodytes and made it to the bottom of the mountain, where I ended up being constantly abused by this blinged out elite that dished out aneurysms on demand. Many rage-fueled deaths had passed before we were able to make it past this elite knucklehead and we became the flying wildlife. With the Banshee now at our disposal, Windows XP comes up with a plan to destroy the ring. But first we need to destroy 3 pulse generators in order to destabilize the ring. So with our new flying machine, we fly up to the first generator and begin to clear out the platform. But I was not expecting an AA Wraith to be there as well, and safe to say, it did not end well. Eventually we were able to make it onto the platform and head inside to give these sleeping boys a permanent nap before we took out the first generator. While flying back, we discovered that the Covenant had blocked the path out of this frozen hell canyon, and in order to escape we need to activate 2 switches to be able to leave. It's just that there's an army of numpties in between me and the button, but using the dive bomb tactic we were able to clear out the platform and activate the buttons. Luckily a new Banshee spawned in, otherwise I would find it difficult to get down from this height. Using the Banshee we fly and enter the tunnel. The excitement I felt being back down here was unimaginable, as the walls were covered with the flood spawn pods, and with the amount of flood entering this dimension, my Banshee held together as much as a digestive biscuit. But we were eventually able to make it past all these flood after I ended up being spawn camped for half an hour. Now armed with a Wraith, we continue to descend further into this tunnel, blasting all the flood in our way. But as fun as it was using this beast, we eventually came up to a blockade made up of destroyed Wraiths. I tried for ages to get my Wraith past this, but sadly, our Wraith was just too big to fit.
Can't make it. The shit's stuck. Out of my way, son!
Using the flood pods to our advantage, we were able to make our way through these tunnels with only a few minor deaths involved. Despite my aim letting me down once again, we crossed the bridge and I laid my eyes on something that I instantly knew I wanted. The Sparrowhawk. In that moment, my monkey brain only had one goal in mind, and that was I had to get it no matter what. And after fighting my way towards it over the course of the next 10 minutes, we could finally take to the skies with this unit of an air vehicle. I'll be honest, the rest of this section was no trouble at all with the Sparrowhawk just dominating everything that so much as looked at it. I just wish we could have spent more time with this thing, as sadly we had to go through a door to take us back up to the rest of this water torture of a level. Now the rest of this level, I won't go into too much detail as we pretty much just backtrack through this level we already did. But over the next hour and a half we blast past the narrow halls in the 2 bridges with many new holes made in my desk, with the number of deaths I was accumulating playing this game. But eventually we were able to make it back outside and use this ghost to fly by all the troublemakers who were planning to block my path. And as I turned the corner, I saw her. My grizzly tank that we left back here in Mission 5. She waited for me, just as she said she would. I was never happier to see 66 tons of machinery in all of my life. With this sexy beast back in my life, we used it to take out these nerds camping up ahead and steal the Banshee in order to take out the second generator. As we quickly moved inside, it seems that the ring's supply of explosives were being used to try and take out this little ODST. We quickly take out the McMuffin number 2 and end up getting swarmed by flood almost immediately. A few deaths later and we were able to make it back to the Banshee and fly back down to our one true love. Once our love was reconnected, we made our way back towards yet another tunnel. But I'm afraid that here was where our love story ends, as the door doesn't open all the way, forcing me to leave my one true love behind, after she waited for me for so long, hoping that one day I would return, and on that day that I do, I sadly had to let her go. I'll never forget the times that we spent together. Well, for all of 5 seconds anyway, as just as I passed through the door, the flood seemed to want my buttered Baps for lunch. Refusing to be in some flood's digestive system, we continue to push forward and make our way out this tunnel, where as we emerge we get to see the flood and the coveys duke it out ahead of us. I started to question if to involve myself, but this flying inconvenience made that decision for me. As we steal a ghost from whoever was left, we just glide past any and all fights happening around me until we reach the final area. Now this final part was relentless. There are just so many flood, coveys and wraiths to deal with, and with my body being as fragile as my sanity at this point, you knew this place wasn't going to be fun to deal with. I must have spent the next 30 minutes trying different tactics just to get to the Banshee. From using the ghost to trying to snipe everything here, no matter what I tried, nothing seemed to work. Until one attempt with the ghost made it through, and just like some sign from God, just as a gravity grenade poured a Banshee behind a tree protecting us both, we made our move and got out of that gauntlet before I was forcibly sent back to the last checkpoint against my will. And against all odds, we made it to the final generator and destroyed it. The ring was now destabilized. It would not be able to run its antivirus purge without the generators, buying Jimbo and Windows 95 Cortana some time to retrieve the captain and the hard drive, and use that to destroy the ring. But where we were going next, I was not looking forward to going, as Cortana XP has teleported us right on our heads into the heart of a flood-infested Covenant ship. All we had to do now was play some overly aggressive game of hide and seek with the captain. Upon spawning in, we are reunited with an old flame, Flamey. It felt so good to have her back, and it's a good thing too, as an honor guard flood emerged trying to shank me with this pointy thing. less than 10 seconds into the mission. Things were starting to get a little bit out of hand as we burnt our way towards the giant hole in the ship, and we were able to jump down. Now, I don't have the best memories of being down here, but this wasn't my first rodeo with this section. But with the mass number of trogs bearing down on me, my flight or fight responses malfunctioned, caused me to just shit myself instead of doing anything good. After forcefully respawning another 5 times, we were finally able to push through the attacking flood. But it seems that the Sentinels were also invited to this gangbang that was happening down here. And I don't know about you, but I just wasn't into that. As we approach the sniper cliff, we stand by and watch as a suicide flood takes out a hunter. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the suicide flood that are in this mod. So yeah, that's a thing. And I'm not overly happy about it either. But we do get a front row seat as we watch the flood destroy the Covenant. And when the winner was claimed, we jump down and deal with any stragglers that stuck around. Pushing through this canyon, we eventually make it to the grab lift. Now, I'm going to be real with you here. This part was straight up dog doo-doo, as there was a metric fuck ton of enemies here, including hunters guarding the lift itself, a banshee, a sentinel enforcer, so it was not looking good for our little boy Jimbo. But we did put on our big boy pants and we waited for the enforcer to do its job for us. And when the area was less crowded, we made a run for the lift. And then we were able to re-enter the ship. But as soon as I laid my eyes on what was inside, I wished I was back outside, as seconds later this small room was filled up with so many floods that they all didn't appear on my motion tracker. Honestly, making my way through these narrow halls with what seemed like endless flood made me feel unwell. The mod devs really did a good job with the flood, making them so that you're always on the run, with overwhelming numbers. It made blundering through these narrow halls and opening sections really intense. Once my blood pressure had returned to a normal level, we entered the hangar bay and proceeded to blast our way up to the top floor. The control room was now within touching distance. The only thing that was in my way was more flood. But with a calm approach and a lot of running away, we were eventually able to make it inside, clearing out all the zombitches within, before we discovered the horrific fate of the captain. It turns out that the captain was taking part in No Nut November, and had turned into a giant nutsack, but we still needed his hard drive. So Jimbo gave his face a good old fisting and stole all his passwords. All we had to do now was steal his ship and fly to the Pillar of Autumn. But just as I was about to leave, I was greeted by a bunch of Spec Ops Covenant who just instantly put my face into the floor. And it regretfully took me another 3 more deaths of being instantly destroyed in this room before I discovered my growing hatred for the Spec Ops elites in this mod. They filled my body with such dread when I laid eyes on them, as their shield strength is harder than Dwayne Johnson's pecs. But after hiding behind this pillar like a little bitch at the back of the room, we were free to make a run back to the hangar bay, where, I won't lie to you, I didn't waste any time. As soon as the flying wildlife landed, I instantly jumped down and stole one, and then we flew away from this sinking ship. Now, to my surprise, Mission 10 was not the end of the game as we come to know and love, but instead, it's its own custom mission, starting off with the sexy alpha male calling for Jimbo for help over the radio, and because of our strong connection to our boy Johnson, we feel we had to help him back at Alpha Base. Landing just outside the base, we had to fight our way through this valley which seemed eerily familiar, like we've been here before. It unfortunately took me less than a minute to get my first death on this level, but on the next life we were able to leave the spawn without getting my human rights abused instantly. As we begin to move up the hill, we run into our old friend, the Sniper Jackal. As you can imagine, I was super thrilled to run into them. And not just him, but an Ultra Elite camping on top of the hill. This was a great start to this level. After being a brave boy pushing the Elite and the remaining Covenant on the hill, we were able to make our way to the life pod and instantly noticed all the red dots beginning to surround me. And as you can imagine, things do not end well for our little ODST. With the big brain decision to not go towards that escape pod ever again, we dodge these little freaks battling it out and arrive at one of the holdout points where in Mission 2 the Marines are hiding out in the hills, only for it to now not have the exact same friendly vibe I remembered. We quickly deal with these lunatics before finding ourselves in the middle of another war zone, with the coveys on either side of the stream and a Wraith camping on the high ground. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, and that statement had never been more true, as our old friend the Sniper Goblin had returned. God damn it! After punching it in the face, we steal the Wraith and roll into the next area. We continue to annihilate these trogs and a pair of hunters before we have to leave our loyal companion behind, as we needed to press a button on the top of the rocks. Now, I don't know about you, but this soundtrack for this section is an absolute banger. Waiting for us at the top was a Spec Ops Elite. Now my hatred for the Spec Ops Elites in CE is pretty high as it is, but playing this mod, that level had just skyrocketed. These armoured septic tanks' shield strength is just ridiculous. I'm sure they rival the Halo 2 Ultras with Mythic on at this point. Anyway, with the shield wall now down, we immediately come face to face with 4 Enforcer Sentinels. Wanting absolutely nothing to do with that, we tried to glide away but are met with a wall of Covenant in my way. This whole encounter made me want to put my head through the drywall, as trying to take down these 3 Enforcers with a Wraith, with them constantly moving out of the way, was frustrating to say the least, as 1 in 20 shots would hit them direct. And you guessed it, it took more than 1 shot to take them down. As you can imagine, I was here for a while trying to hit these mosquitoes with the giant blue balls. Moving inside the tunnel, we blow up some Covenant who were dull enough to get in between me and the way forward. As we plod along, we eventually make it to Alpha Base. That looked as if it was in some big trouble, as an overwhelming number of Flood and flying Terminators were converging on the base. Knowing our boy Johnson was in there, we wasted no time. We scaled the wall and lent a hand to the Marines holding out inside, as we were forced into a slap my ass and call me Dustin Echoes, another holdout section. To be honest, this holdout section wasn't too bad. I mainly ran from one side of the base to the other, blasting any Flood with a shotgun. It was when Cortana opened the main doors, was when I started to have some issues. As just as the doors opened, the Flood wasted no time in putting down all my Marines. But like the brave boy that Jimbo is, we abandoned the Marines using them as a distraction while I did a runner, but I didn't get very far. After many attempts, we eventually make it to the hills, where we are informed that a tank is waiting for us at the top. With this new motivation flowing through my veins, we run as fast as the gingerbread man and once again greet the sexy ceramic titanium armored beast into my life. The next few sections were no match for this match made in heaven, as it seemed even though everything and the kitchen sink was thrown at me and the tank, we would always come out on top with very minor damage. But all good things must come to an end. I sadly had to part ways with the love of my life once again, having to leave her behind for a 3rd time, all because of this 10-foot ledge standing in our way. I'll never forget the times that me and Grizzly had spent together. As we come up to where our adventure started on this hula hoop, I noticed a Pelican parked there with a few surviving Marines, and upon joining them, Windows 10 attempts to do a full reboot on the Pelican, but just as she does, we are forced into yet another holdout section. Now, I'd just like to say, this holdout section took me over 40 minutes, spread across 2 different play sessions. The Flood come endlessly at you from 2 sides. I could try and deal with the Flood on the front, only to instantly get shot in the back. I honestly died here more times than I can count. In the end, I resorted to hiding in the Pelican until Cortana was done with the updates. We eventually took off in the Pelican, continuing on our quest towards the Pillar of Autumn. Sadly, none of the other Marines we tried to save through this level survived. Now remember back in Mission 4, I was greeted with a choice of what version of this level to play? Well, here we are greeted with it again, and this time, we're going to dive into the evolved version of the Silent Cartographer, but with a twist. In this mission, we take a step away from Jimbo, and step into the boots of an elite zealot, who is joined by none other than the Shipmaster from Halo 2, and one of the playable elites from Halo 3. The elite's mission is to discover what happened to a brute squad who was sent into the island to reactivate the ring's firewalls, that Jimbo may have turned off back in Mission 4. Naughty boy. As we move up the beach and inland, we discover a brute chieftain and his squad hiding out. The giant ape informs us that the Cartographer has been taken over by the Flood. However, as we try to rally the troops, this giant Sasquatch orders his little minions to unalive us, to which they nearly did. But using this rock for safety, we were able to put down these little goblins before things did not end well for me. Making our way back down the beach, we take out more nerds trying to stop us, and we end up using our blade to break down this door, which is pretty damn cool to be honest. And then we end up riding this elevator down underground. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect from this level, but with how this game has been so far, it was nothing good. And sometimes, I hate being right, as me and my fellow elites come up to an underground cave ram-packed with Flood. During this fight, I made a startling discovery that you cannot pick up the UNSC weapons as the elite. I mean, I guess it would make sense, as we do not want to be labelled as a traitor to the Covenant. Eventually, we were able to make our way back to the surface and show justice to more oversized chimps before arriving at the beach once again. Which would have been a nice time, but sadly, more trogs are already here trying to kick my ass off the beach. As the battle for this beach begins, it seems that my brain power was in rapid decline, as I kept falling off this little 2-foot cliff and into the sea. leading to a very sudden and quick demise, as apparently elites don't know how to swim. After much trial and error, we steal this monkey's wraith and go to town on the rest of these nerds that try to take us out. Just as we pass through the tunnel of flood, we are then forced to leave our wraith behind and move into Sniper Valley. Honestly, this area had so many sniper chickens, hunters and turrets, all looking to turn me into tomato soup, but I will admit I struggled here for a while. But when I got my hands on the hunter cannon, things were looking up, as we eventually found ourselves at a structure surrounded by flood. With this area now clear, our elite must head inside alone for some reason. I guess the shipmaster still has that trait from Halo 2. Once inside, this place was like House of Mirrors, as I could not work out where I was meant to go. But eventually I found the way and took the world's slowest elevator to the second level, which I had to take back up as I fell off the second floor. Looks like me falling off elevators has made a return. Riding more elevators up, we reactivate the ring's firewall and hope to slow down this infection spreading across the ring even further. But to be honest, this seems like a temporary solution. As we return to our elite buddies, we bypass more flood and sniper douchebags as we make our way towards the cartographer. The guards outside were no real issue, and we were inside the structure within minutes, only for me to have this flood's glowy thing thrusted inside of me. However, on round 2, it was my turn to thrust my pointy thing inside something for a change. Jesus. Making our way inside, I made the executive decision to just run past all the fighting happening all around, as I didn't want to waste what ammo I had left. And we finally arrived at the door to the cartographer, and must now destroy 3 generators in order to destroy it. But that was easier said than done, as this room took me over half an hour just to cut 3 generators. The amount of flood spawning here is so bad, to the point you don't even get a second to have your shields regenerate, and with what time it takes you to be able to use the sword again, you're already sent back to the last checkpoint. But after some careful planning and pulling off 300 IQ plays, we eventually destroy all 3 generators. And at that exact moment, however, the whole ring begins to shake. We then receive word that the human ship has been destroyed by the lone human. We had no option but to escape. Wasting no time at all, we rapidly backtrack through the building, and I suddenly realized that all the enemies I passed on the way in were still there, with new enemies spawning in. Well done me. Eventually we were able to exit the building, and we end up stealing this part ghost, and now we must race to get to the beach before the ring just shatters. But just as we're about to board our phantom, the brute from the start of the level is waiting for us, and we are forced into a boss battle. Well, I say boss battle, but there really wasn't much to write about here, as the fight was over in less than 20 seconds. No, really, this clip was the full fight. After that embarrassing defeat, our elite kicks the gorilla in the head and just flat out executes him, and with that we board the Phantom and fly off to make our report to the Prophets. I'm sure they'll understand what happened here and let this all slide. Now, it was time. The final level. I was never happier to see this mission after all the struggles I have faced while playing this game. While flying towards the ship, Jimbo in that exact moment decides to honour the late Captain Keyes by pulling off a Keyes landing attempt. I'll be honest, being back on the Pillar of Autumn filled me with as much confidence as using half-ply toilet paper, but it was all or nothing now. I didn't spend over 25 hours of in-game time to give up now. Dropping out of the vents like some kind of gremlin, we introduce the Sentinels to a grenade and immediately get sent into the Shadow Realm by these lurking suicide flood.
Really?
Luring the suicide flood out from their little corner so that my heart rate remained at a steady 80, we quickly deal with the flood pouring out the doors, even though we kinda had to backpedal a fair distance to do so. On the way to the cafeteria, we get smacked in the face by a hunter, a move that would be considered illegal in the UK, but it turns out we didn't even have time to get some payback, as after I hid around the corner for a few moments, returning to face my attacker head on, we find him napping on the floor, so I just steal his gun instead. Now this part, I will admit, I thought was going to be a run killer here, as there are so many Spec Ops elites in this room, camping right at the back, and they would completely destroy our little Jimbo before I could even make a dent in one of their shields. I struggled here for a fair bit, but my determination to beat this level was too strong. So I powered through each death, coming back stronger and with slightly less brain cells, as I kept trying the same thing over and over again. But we were eventually able to make it to the bridge, only to have my human rights abused by this squid-headed turnip with a sword.
What the fuck?
I lost count how many times this elite actually killed me, but I was eventually able to beat him with a few grenades that I had found. It only took me 10 minutes of dying to go looking for a better weapon. Anyway, with the bridge now secured, Jimbo uploads Windows 10 back to the main computer, and with the captain's passwords we could activate the ship-wide purge and destroy the ring. The floating light bulb puts a stop to our plan by simply unplugging us from the power supply. With this, Jimbo comes up with a plan to throw some grenades into the engine, hoping that will be enough to destroy the ship. With this new forehead play in mind, we set off, only for us to get knocked back into the bridge by a bunch of flood. Moving slightly along, we make it to the cryo bays, and I think my aim must have been taking a gap year or something, as I missed 4 shots point blank with a shotgun on this sentinel that was hardly moving. Bouncing back after that embarrassing display, we enter the vents only to emerge into an added section of the map we last played back in Mission 1. As we make our way through these empty halls, it started to feel like a horror game, and that made my brain somewhat happy. What didn't make my brain happy was dying in this room and being sent back to the start of this whole new area. But we were eventually able to make some progress throughout this level, and by that I mean I just ran past all the flood trying to gangbang me. But we eventually found ourselves back at the motor pool, and it was safe to say I struggled here for a while, as because my monkey brain ran past the flood in the last few rooms, I failed to notice my lack of ammo. Trying to get past this part with only 6 shotgun shells and just over 70 bullets in the AR was not doing my long-term health any favours. But after a mass trial and error and near enough half an hour of wasting my life trying to get past one hallway, we finally made it to the elevator that got stuck as we rode it up. Now I will admit this part with the broken halls was a real nice touch. It just felt like you were actually in a crashed ship that took heavy damage. Just thought I'd slide that in there. Continuing on, we come across the stairs again. I never thought it was possible for these stairs to give me the same issue twice in the same game, but here we are. Many deaths and 1 burst blood vessel later, we finally made it to the engine room, and to my surprise, there was a pair of hunters thrown into the mix, further adding to that Halo-shaped tumour growing inside my head. To be honest, it's a good thing that I'm a pro at Halo now, as it took me less than 5 minutes to destroy all 4 engine cores, and make our way towards the Warthog run. I guess it had something to do with that in this mod we're not a Marine this time. What a shame. Now this Warthog run was tense and came at a cost. And that cost was my underpants, as I was worried that the hog would just explode on me. But it seems that the devs also feared this, as my hog throughout this run hardly took any damage. Where was this featured 20 hours ago? Anyway, with my pro driving skills, we made it to the point where Echo 419 was going to pick us up. But sadly, she was hunted and shot down by the flying wildlife. We had no choice but to keep going, and we managed to make it to the longsword with just under 2 minutes on the clock. Very nice. We managed to outrun the flood-given chase, jump on board, and fly the longsword away just moments before the ring explodes. And after countless deaths, blood, sweat, and many rage quits, we finally did it. I beat SPV3 on the Noble difficulty. Playing this mod brought back a lot of memories for me. I remember when this mod first came out and I was super excited to play it, and that feeling doesn't seem to have passed. SPV3 brings back that feeling I felt as a kid playing Halo CE for the first time. The mod team really did an amazing job with this game, and I would highly recommend you guys check it out if you got the chance. Even though it took me over 25 hours of in-game time to beat, honestly, Noble difficulty is no joke. I don't think I would have beaten this game in the time I did if it wasn't for being able to create your own checkpoints. Honestly, that feature is a lifesaver. Now, before we end this video, I'd like to say a massive thank you and shout out to our channel members for their continued support. You guys are truly legendary. If you would like to become a member, you can just click that join button on my channel page. It's entirely up to you if you do or not, it's completely optional. Now, with SPV complete, Jimbo can finally rest and return home to his family.